Welcome to another episode. And let's see, Andy. I can hear myself in my speakers. Let me see if we got you on the voice as well.
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going?
Excellent. Yeah, doing well. Doing well. Driving the controls.
Yeah. Rich is running the whole show tonight, right? You got the control panel working, kicking off the hosting duties. Take it away.
Yeah,
Enlighten us.
yeah. That's a rare seat for me. I don't usually do the lead in or the outro or any of those things. I'm usually behind the scenes or occasionally showing something. So it's definitely a little different for me. And I have to, while I'm part of it is waiting for the build up to get your voice to come through. So I was kind of dragging a little bit as you were as I was waiting for your voice to come across the stream. So everything sounds good. Let us know in the chat if it's not, because we're watching that too. But welcome everyone. Appreciate you coming in, checking us out. We got some really cool topics tonight. Really interested in hearing about Playwright for testing web applications. Andy's going to walk us through some of that, and that sounds like it will be a lot of fun. Probably should put our titles up there so we can see who everybody is. So looking forward to having that conversation. I wanted to just share a couple of links and things that are happening that came out since we were last week. So let's see if I share this. How does that look? Oh, cool. So this is
You want to share to me?
just a reminder.
Oh, are you? Maybe you are.
I think I am.
Yeah, no, I switched the wrong view.
That's okay. Just making sure.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah, this is we're coming up to May, and May is has for the past few years anyway been the time that we have build. So it is the end of May this time around, so May 24th through the 26th, and that's our developer conference where there's a lot of great sessions. It is also going to be virtual, so not an in-person event again this time around, but it still is an opportunity for you to register, and for the community, there's a whole bunch of great community sessions that are really focused on getting closer contact with people who are either part of the product team or part of the communities that you might be in. So there's a really trying to mimic what we would do there in person, but have it done virtually through the web. So I would definitely say check that out and go take a look. I think they're starting, well, there's session archives that are up there, but there's also I don't think we put out a schedule yet for the various talks. It's a little early for that, but it is time to register, so you'll get notified when those talks will certainly happen. So, Andy, I don't know if you've had some time to.
Build's been a great conference over the years, right? A real must go to event, right? And I don't like to talk about how great COVID was, right? Because clearly that's not the case. However, now you have, again, we have an opportunity that we can all attend Build. It used to be an in-person event, right? I love in-person events, but hey, now we can all attend Build because we can attend from our couch or wherever it is we are, right? So, that is a benefit. I guess it's worth looking at it that way. Build's always been a great conference, great speakers, great content. Just good stuff, good time.
Yeah, always lots of good announcements, lots of things that after spending a couple of days of watching all those things, like, yep, I've got to try that. I've got to build something that does that. There's always something I want to do as a result of listening in and seeing what that content is. So
yeah, I make a list, right? I'm always making a list when I go to a conference, whether it be Build or Code Camp or whatever. Make that list. Oh, got to try that. Got to try that. Got to try that. And if I get to a couple of them, I'm happy, right? Because generally speaking,
Yep.
like there's just more stuff than you can check out, right? Matter of fact, tonight's topic is one of those things that like I've wanted to check out for a while, right?
Yeah.
And I finally gave myself a reason. Like I said, let's do a show about it, right? Because give myself now I got to go check it out. But it's so hard to find time to do all these things. But you go to an event like Build, and you get like an hour on a topic, and you're just like, wow, that's good stuff. That's cool,
Definitely. Yeah, so definitely go check that out. Go register, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it as we get closer to the Build event as well. Let's see if I do this, will that work? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, and we'll drop links to these in the chat. But this was something else I saw come through that was kind of interesting. So this is essentially a blog post, and if you think about, you might have different APIs that you talk to. Those APIs typically may have, and especially in Azure, they have some kind of a token that you need to get in order to be able to pass that token in to access the API. And that might be a public or a service API like Graph or something like that, or even an API that you might put in place in your environment and you do your app registration process against. This was kind of interesting because I know when I've done it, I would go and I would authenticate myself against an endpoint, grab that token through Postman and drag that into the other Postman tab that had my call to go ahead and make that happen.
Right.
Well, now, you're
Yep.
right. You've done that too, right?
Oh yeah. Oh sure. Yeah. We all know that routine, right?
Mm-hmm. So what this is doing is this is it looks like there's a, and I haven't tried this yet. I just saw it not long before the end of my day here, but it's one of those. It's actually some capabilities that you can do as within the Azure CLI. So Azure CLI being that command line interface to be able to talk to Azure and do scripting or create components in Azure, interrogate components in Azure. In this scenario, what we're doing is we have the ability to from the steps here, we're logging into Azure. We're creating an SP, which is a service principal. We're giving it a specific ID, so we're able to get back to it again. And then we're adding a permission against that service principal. So ID, this app ID refers to this first line here, which is the global, they're saying is the global app ID for the Azure CLI. And the app ID that we want to get permissions against is this one here. So this is a custom API that we've got created that we want to go ahead and authenticate against. And then we define whatever our scope is. And when you define your API and app register, you say what scopes you're exposing essentially. So that scope becomes something that's included inside of the token that gets given to you. So you can interrogate those scopes and make sure that those the ones that you're looking for are in there. And because they are, in this case, the API is looking for those as well. So we're able to use that and pass that through. And then this one line down here essentially gets us our new token. Now we don't show that here because we don't want someone to go off and run off with that token in the blog post. But with a couple lines of code, and you can easily put that in a bash shell and script all of that out and be able to when you need to get a token, run the command, get the token at the end, and then go drop that into whatever you're using to talk to the API essentially.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty. I just thought that was neat because
fine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes
one of those little things just
happen.
making life a little easier for people, right? Kind of thing.
That's what we do. That was the whole, I don't know, that was one of the reasons why people started writing blog posts to begin with, right? I found this, I finally found how to do this, and before I forget, and hopefully somebody else finds it and is able to take advantage of that, I'll just write it in a blog post. So thank you. Who was that? That was Phil Jersa wrote that one up. And I'll drop that a link in the chat so you guys have that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So those were the couple that I had, and just wanted to share a few of those so that, and I try and do that at the beginning of the show just so that, because there's all kinds of great information that comes out every week. That's really,
I love that
really
stuff. Not everything warrants a full show, right? But we start off with sort of like a little bit of the news or what we found, and you bring that kind of content, which is really cool. All that stuff's great, right? Like you said, that's why we have blogs and stuff like that. I haven't done it lately. I used to start off my morning like just scouring blogs for like interesting things to read for the first half hour or hour of my day or whatever, and it's hard to find time to do that. So you're making my life easier by bringing the goodness to the Dev Talk Show. Appreciate that. And by the way, I see Off the Rails Gaming. Hello. Well, I'm saying hello to Off the Rails Gaming. Off the Rails Gaming comes right in with no Chris tonight. How about, hey, Rich? Hey, Andy? You guys are great. No, just, it doesn't matter about us, right? It's like, okay, we're not going to take that personally, right? Off the Rails Gaming. We'll try not to. We're not offended, but no, Chris is got some family stuff tonight or whatever. He's a busy guy. He's a busy guy.
It's all right. I'll admit it. We miss Chris too.
Yeah, exactly. We all know, let's face it, tune out. This isn't going to be the best show. Chris is in here. You know, catch this one, come back next week. And no, of course. Right. No, thanks off there. I see you said you guys are great too. I know. I was fishing for a compliment there, wasn't I?
Really hard.
But yeah, we're not all always available, right? And so that's the real benefit of oh my gosh, Z-Man Philly here tonight.
Oh,
That's a rare treat. Look at that, Z-Man, and he says he'll stay anyway. Appreciate that. Um, um, yeah, that's why there's three of us, right? Because we can rotate different responsibilities around, and whoever's here, and whoever's not here, we can keep this show running, right? Barely.
definitely. It's running. That's the good part. All right. So I don't. Andy, do you have anything that's been you've been catching up on this week?
I caught up on.
Sorry, I threw you out in the spot.
Yeah. No, really, generally not. Well, I mean, I was catching up on our topic on Playwright a bit, right? I wanted to familiarize myself with some of that. Coming into this, I'm not an expert in Playwright, but I know enough to get everyone started and to be dangerous and all that kind of stuff. And the good news is, right, like, it's one of those technologies, like it's not that complicated, right? It's a framework, and you can use it to do lots of things. There's all kinds of features in there, but getting started with it's actually I think it's going to make for a good demo because it's pretty easy, to get moving on it. That is assuming you have some familiarity with some other things, right? I don't like to say, oh, that's easy, because if you're starting at zero, someone else might be watching the show and saying, well, that's not easy. I got to learn web development first. Okay, so we're assuming web dev. We're assuming a bit about testing in general and all those kind of things, and then adding this layer, isn't too bad. But starting from scratch, is a whole other thing. And it kind of makes me wonder. We've talked to students on this show, right? When we have students in the audience, we're always asking them for feedback. When you learn web development in school now, do you learn, like, is testing something that even comes up? I wonder. I don't know. I wonder.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when I learned development, there was no test automation. That was just, you had somebody that's, maybe if you were lucky, you had someone that sat next to you and did all the testing.
Right, somebody who really liked it, really thought that was awesome, and they dove in on it. And as developers, we were pretty eager to turn over the keyboard when it came over to the testing side of it. But I think that's changed. I think culturally that's changed a good bit. Whether it's changed at the school level, I don't know. But it was fun. I was having a conversation today with a customer where we were talking about DevOps, and when I talked about DevOps, probably a half dozen years ago or so, we were having this conversation around shifting left. And what we were shifting left was testing and getting testing earlier in the cycle, because if we could get tests run at that point in time, the ability to fix those bugs becomes much easier because you remember the code, and it becomes much less expensive because it takes you less time to fix the bug because you're just right, you're almost right in what it was you're working on when that error kind of popped up. So in my mind, it's been something we've been doing for a while, but whether the school, and I'd love to hear in the chat if anybody has any thoughts on, or any experience with how that is getting shared out in the schools or in the curriculums, and whether you're seeing that out there, that would be interesting to hear.
Yeah. I would like to hear that as well. So should we get into this?
Yeah. Let's take a look.
All right, I got the website up on my screen if you want to. Oh, let me share it. Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. Let me do that. I forgot you were sharing for a bit, so I didn't have my screen up. So, okay. So I'm sharing my screen now, and you should be able to do that. Let me close it up. Yeah, you don't want that. Okay. Yeah, that's you. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about Playwright. Starting off on their website, right? A simple way to start: playwright.dev. Playwright.dev, as you can see up here, hopefully, right? Straight line, Rich. I remembered what you taught me. Playwright.dev. And it says .net afterwards. That's because there's a whole bunch of different flavors of ways you can use Playwright, right? So what do they say? Playwright enables reliable end-to-end testing for modern web apps. Okay, thanks for coming. That's our show for tonight. And yeah, so Playwright enables reliable end-to-end testing for modern web apps. So, the first thing I think about when I think about a new framework is kind of like, well, we already have a framework for that, or we have a bunch of frameworks that do that. So what do we need Playwright for? I guess, right? Now, I also kind of want to start off by saying that I've done some web testing in my career, right? And it's generally not been a great experience, right? I've had experience with various tools that work to keep things, to make things easy for you. But UI testing and web testing in general, right, has always been a little problematic. It's always been like a tough thing to do because little changes to the UI can really break a lot of tests depending on the framework you're using. And so frameworks have gotten better and better over the years to make some of this stuff easier. But I will say, as a starting point for this conversation, or if someone's really thinking about getting involved in end-to-end, as it says here, testing for web apps, I'm going to actually start off with a cautionary saying, do as little web UI testing as you can, right? Now that might sound a little controversial, right? But if you have an application that has let's say a JavaScript kind of front end or any kind of front end that calls a web API, right? I feel like you get a lot more bang for your buck in testing that web API. Test the API, do as much testing as you can on that, right? And I kind of feel like you need to do testing on the UI, but as little as possible testing as I can do on the UI is what I want to do, right? I want to test the important stuff on the UI to make sure it works. But if I'm going to run 20 scenarios, maybe I run a lot of scenarios just straight at the web API that backs up the website. Does that make sense, Rich? You know what I mean by that?
It does, and I think this goes back to some of and correct me if I have this wrong, but I think it goes back to some of the testing that we tried to put in place when we couldn't test some of those back-end services, when we had things like web forms and we had to basically build the entire UI and mock things out and get things in place in order to be able to just test a visual front end to all of the code that's written behind it.
Yeah, it was much harder, certainly. But luckily the web, UI testing is way better than it used to be, right? So
yes.
So anyway, well, I was saying, we want to talk about like, well, why do I need Playwright? And so let me just check my notes here. So I saved this. I got some notes here with some articles, and I found this article that I thought was pretty good, right? And I can zoom in a bit on that. This talks about Playwright versus WebDriver, the future of browser automation. Now, to make things a little bit easier, let me just see if I get this in the right. I snapped a screenshot of this, and from there, I highlighted this article a bit because I thought this was kind of nice and an easy way to talk about this. So, basically, let me go back to the article here. Let me see. Wait, where's my article? So this article talks a little about, what is Playwright, and starts to talk about the reason for Playwright, which is that, you might be thinking, well, we already have some tools, right? We already have Selenium or Protractor and things like that, right? And Selenium's really popular, and I've used Selenium before, and I'm thinking like, so what do I get now that I didn't have with Selenium? And so what ends up happening, this article does a really good job of explaining it. So I figured I would just, reference that. Said WebDriver has been the underlying protocol leveraged by tools such as Selenium, etc. Right? WebDriver is the protocol, right? And the protocol commands are sent from the test script to the driver that is specific for each browser, right? And the driver serves as the middleman. And this, again, I'm taking the words right out of this article. The driver's in the middleman. But the problem with that is that the script and the browser aren't really synced up, right? They're sending commands back and forth, and they don't really know about each other, and they're not aware of each other, and that leads to certain limits, right?
Hmm.
And so what ends up happening now is with the dev tools, right? So now we have the dev tools protocol, and it's really the Chrome dev tools protocol, but we know that that Edge uses that, right? And it says most modern browsers have adopted the Chrome dev tools protocol, and that allows test scripts to communicate directly with the browser using WebSockets, right?
Hmm.
And so it's a really big change, right? It's a significant change. It's not like someone decided to let's build a new framework on top of the same on top of the same WebDriver, right? It's not. It's fundamentally different in its protocol, and so that gives some benefits to it. Now there was also a question really early as we got started from Richard Wysocki about Microsoft's involvement here. And so it actually talks about that in this article here a little bit. The protocol was first used by Puppeteer, which is an open source web app tool created by Google themselves, right? But I guess because it was Google, I'm just guessing, right? I don't know. But Puppeteer did not offer support for Safari and Firefox. So it says, right here, it says Microsoft hired the developers from Puppeteer to build Playwright, right, to take it to the next level. And it seems like, one of the questions that Richard asked was, what's the support? And it seems like, as far as I can tell, this is a fully embraced product by Microsoft. They're really pushing it. It's really gained popularity because of some of the differences. And I'm going to talk about some of that real quick here. And again, I'm kind of stealing from this article. I should say, Adam Tapper, whoever you are, thank you for making this easy for me. And I can post a link. I'm going to post this link in the chat in case people want to check it out. So one of the real big feature that people talk about when you talk about Playwright that makes it different is auto waits. Okay, auto waits.
Okay.
So with a lot of the other frameworks, again, they weren't aware. See, if you think about this, it started to make sense when I was reading about how there's this new protocol, the DevTool protocol, that is aware of the browser. It's more connected. And so what ends up happening is now, since we're aware of the browser, we can tell if pages have been loaded. We can tell if the UI has changed and things like that, right? It used to be you had to always sprinkle all these things like push a button and wait a second, and maybe the second was enough, maybe it wasn't. Should I wait 2 seconds, right? And you had to sprinkle all that time in there. And every time you're doing a wait like that, you're wasting a lot of time too, because if the call comes back quicker, you're waiting a little longer. It's just a mess, right?
Right.
So what happens now is we have this awareness and we get auto waits, right? Now you can choose to wait, but the nice thing is this auto wait stuff is sort of just out of the box the way you do things, right? And it makes it a real pleasure. Also, we have network control. And by the way, if you have any questions, just jump in here. I'm going to try to bang through some of these and we'll get into some demos. Network controls. Test scripts can vary conditions for the application by simulating file uploads and downloads. You can do all kinds of stuff, right? You can do authentication, intercepting network requests, and mocking out request responses. Like, you can do a lot of cool stuff with network control, right? You have these browser contexts. You can do incognito sessions, right? And multi-page scenarios. You really have access to like some kind of cool things. You have permissions to notifications and geolocation, right? That wasn't something that was easy to test, I guess. Et cetera. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. Now it does come with limitations, right? everything good has some limitations, right? And it does say that. So the thing is, the dev tools are not. It says it right here, right? The dev tools are not publicly exposed by WebKit and Gecko, right? So it says here the Playwright team actually put patches to those engines, right? And those were approved and everything works. So now you can use this with WebKit and Gecko and things like that. But what they're saying is since those patches were approved, those patches could be removed, right? Like it's hard to know, right?
Yeah.
Also, because of the patches, you can't really run it on older browsers, right? There's no support for IE11 and things like that, right? And to me, that's okay. I guess obviously it depends on your use case and what you're trying to do,
Right.
but that might be something that's important to you, right?
Yeah. And it kind of comes out and says it's for modern browsers, right, or modern websites.
It's right. Yep, that's right. And also there's this bit about mobile device testing. So Playwright uses emulators, and you can use the device emulation in the browser, like that kind of thing. But it's not like you're actually testing on a mobile device, and so that's sort of a limitation of it. So that's a little bit of background about sort of the pros and cons, right, for Playwright. And I really just see that it's gaining popularity like crazy. Sorry, let me switch back. I hit the wrong browser here. It's gaining popularity. It seems to really be taking over. People really seem to be happy with it. And so let's get into it a little bit. So, what else do they say here? Any browser, any platform, it's resilient. This is a little bit of marketing stuff here, but it's fast. It's a lot of stuff. And it comes with these powerful tools built into the framework. We'll talk about some of this stuff here. Let's do a little zoom in here. Well, that's a little blurry, but we'll talk about how you can do code gen. We'll talk about the Playwright Inspector and the trace viewer and stuff like that. So there's some really nice features in here. And so why don't we get into looking at some code now? This is the Playwright website, right? And so right off the bat, I can go right in here. And by the way, when I first came to this to look for some demos, I didn't notice that it defaulted to like Node.js. Like it wasn't on .NET. So this is my first tip, which might be kind of stupid, but I was in the docs and I was looking at like getting started, and I was like looking at some stuff, and I was like, where's the .NET stuff that I want to do? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, right. So you have choices, but that's another benefit of it here. The choices I have, I can do testing in JavaScript or TypeScript. I can use Java, Python, or .NET. I'm going to be using .NET, which is what I like to use. So that's what I'm going to be doing, right? So that's my choice. If you don't like it,
there are other choices.
Check it out and start. There's other choices, right? And that's pretty cool. So the docs, again, right off the bat, you come right in here to getting started. And these might not be the most robust demos, but they really do get us started, right? And so it's a really good place to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up our friend VS Code. And let me move that over here and pop up my VS Code. Let's go to a terminal. And in here, I'm going to do where I typically put my stuff in the repos folder, right? Not required for anything to do with Playwright, but just my personal preference. And how's this? Do I need to do a little Control Plus or what? How are we doing? I think making this kind of big for some.
Yeah, that makes the command line window big, which is good.
Yeah, it's pretty big, right? So pretty readable. Okay, great.
I think so.
Cool. So listen, here we go. Right? Good old. How do we get started? .NET new. Right? We're going to use the command line to get these things going. I'm going to create a console app, and I will name it TDTS Playwright demo. All right. Um, and this is generally pretty quick to fire up a new console app, and then I can do CD Playwright demo. Okay, now I'm in there. Now, I will say that here's a question for you or for everybody else. I find myself often doing something like code dot, right, to open to shift code, but then I have to close this code window. Like what I really want to do is I want this version of code to be open to that folder without. Is there a way from the command line to do that? It's got to be, right?
I don't, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So I
and I'll
could
be
go
honest,
like open folder here, right? I could
you
do
could
that.
absolutely.
What I tend to do is just do like code dot and then close this window, and I've got the new one. I don't know if that's the best way to do it, but code opens pretty quickly, so it doesn't bother me too much.
And what you're doing in that first code window in the terminal, I will do in Windows Terminal.
Well, sure, right. If I did it in Windows Terminal, then it would have made a little bit more sense. It probably would have seemed a little smoother, right?
Yeah, because then code brings up code, and I've got that one instance where the folder I need to be in.
Right. So what do I have here now? This is just a console app. This has nothing to do with Playwright yet. Well, of course, there's always this, right? I think this is going to be the C# extension's asking me to install some stuff. That's okay. I'll say yes to. I usually say yes to those things. So, but this is just a console app, right? It doesn't really. It's not a Playwright console app. Nothing special yet. So, let's do .NET add package Microsoft.Playwright. All right. And when I do that, I've got that in there now, and everything's good. All right. Now, again, just as I said, there's like nothing up my sleeves here. I haven't done any kind of compiling, but I'm going to do that now. And if I do a .NET build, which seems a little odd, right? Because we haven't really done anything yet. But I'll do a .NET build, and then it does some stuff, right? And now I have this stuff in this Playwright folder here, which is what I need. And there's a PowerShell script here that I'm going to use. And what the PowerShell script is going to do is it's going to install the required browsers, right? Now, I want to start a warning here right now, because every time I do this, I screw it up. And I'm sort of going out on a limb here saying I'm going to screw this up again. Now, I'm not going to screw it up this time, but I'm going to screw it up later in this show. And I want to be able to say, I told you I was going to do that, right? So this line here, of course, it's made to be cut and pasted, and it has netx in there, right? And so if you look on their website, if you follow these demos here, it tells you down here, wait, replace netx with the folder name. In my case, it's going to be .NET 6, right? But I tend to forget to do that all the time. I don't know about you guys. Like when I'm running these things, I want to copy and paste real fast and move, and I tend to always forget it. So this time, I'm not going to forget. I'm going to come over here and say 6.0 that's Playwright install. Okay. And that's what you need to do to sort of get going with Playwright. It's going to install certain browser tools and stuff that it needs. So now there is a note here.
Hey, Andy.
It says if this,
Andy. So just a question around that. So you added a package into your project, and that is something we do all the time. So that part makes sense.
Sure.
The extra bit, that runs that PowerShell command, is that have to be run for every project as well, or is that a one-time thing to get things installed into the browser?
Yeah, that's a great question. Hang on, I'm going to just hit a button on my side real quick and see. A little, back. Yeah, I was getting a little weird audio problem, and I just restarted Voicemeeter. You know that trick, right? So yeah, that's something you need. That's a great question, Rich. This is a script that you need to run every time, right?
Okay.
I haven't really looked that closely at what it does, but you do have to do it with all your. It's not a machine level install. It's just this PowerShell script, which we can look at it really quick.
Yeah.
I'm no PowerShell expert, but it's using this file, the DLL. But like, I'll be honest, I don't really know what it's doing.
Use
Let's
got
get rid of.
reflection going on, right?
Yeah, it's loading Playwright file name. Well, yeah, I don't really know what it's doing, but you need to do this with every Playwright app you have, right? Um, and but it's pretty straightforward. But what I was going to say is, I did have this problem where PowerShell didn't work through this type not found, and I had to update my PowerShell. So don't be surprised if you need to do this .NET tool update global PowerShell, because this is only in certain. It uses like a latest version. Interestingly, I don't know if you just noticed that I got a warning that said I was not on the latest version of PowerShell, which I thought was shocking considering I upgraded PowerShell to the latest version yesterday. So I don't know what's up with that.
So
Okay. Well, anyway, all this is just to get set up, right? And I say all this, it's like two steps, like simple as can be. Now I'm going to go into the program file, right? Because this is just a console app, all right? And I'm going to just go in and take the code right from the sample. For this first sample, let's just start with that. And here it is. So what is this going to do? Let's make this a little smaller here. Come on. No, can't make it smaller. Here we go. So it's just a, main method kind of thing, right? It's going to use the Playwright library, right, to create it's basically going to create an instance of iPlaywright, right? Create it itself. Then it's going to say, to the Playwright, launch a Chromium browser for me, and I have the browser, right? Then it's going to tell the browser to give me a new page, or really, I think you could almost think of that as a tab, right? Because a page it's not a web page yet; it's a tab, right? And then in that page, I'm going to go to the Playwright website. All right. And this simple demo is going to do one other really interesting thing, which it says, take a screenshot of the web page and save it in screenshot.ping. And if we look over here, I don't see that, and it will appear when I run this. Okay. So actually showing off, first of all, how easy it is to fire up a browser instance, right? And start to navigate, but also show this cool feature where you can get screenshots like at any step along the way, just by saying, grab a screenshot, right? So .NET run is going to get me there. Now this should happen fairly quickly, and it might happen on a different window. So I don't even know if you'll see. Well, no, you won't see. I'm sorry, you won't see anything happen. It's just going to finish. And there it is. I know it's done because all of a sudden here's the screenshot, and there it is, right? Yeah. It just took a picture of the browser. Now, one thing I notice is, and I don't know if there's a way to change this, but I don't see like the browser, the address bar. And I was actually thinking that might be a cool thing to have, in the screenshot.
Sure.
And I don't know if there's a way to include that or not. It's just something I'm noticing. Like, wouldn't it be cool to have that? So when you're looking back at screenshots, you might want to, it would give some context. Now, this one's pretty obvious. Where am I? Well, I'm at their homepage because we know what it looks like. But I could see that being helpful if they had that feature. Anyway, boom, took a screenshot. Okay, simple as can be. Now I'm going to delete that screenshot. Let's get rid of that.
While you're deleting it, you said we weren't going to see the browser pop up. Do you see the browser pop up, or nobody does? It's all happening behind the scenes.
No, it all happens. It's headless by default, right?
Okay.
So the next great demo, since you might be wondering, is what if I don't want it to be headless? What if I want to see it happen, right?
Yeah.
And so I can do that pretty easily. So here we see this Chromium launch async, all right? So
Mm-hmm.
let's pass into that. I'm going to just cut and paste because typing on screen is, not always great. But I can cut into this line that has two little lines here. Let's format that so we can see it a little bit. Close that again. So I've added a browser type launch options, right? And I've said headless is false. So that tells you something right off the bat. Headless by default is what you get. You
It's
have to
true.
specify to make. I'm sorry. Yeah, if I wanted to run headed, if that's a real word, headed, then I say false. The other thing is this slow-mo thing, which I haven't really seen a lot in the docs about it, but slow down playwright operations, right? So that I can see what's going on, because quite frankly, this stuff goes by pretty quickly. So I can slow it down, and it says by 50 milliseconds. So that's not like a huge slowdown, but I guess I can slow it down as more if I wanted to. So the reason I deleted the files, we're going to run it again, and we just want to, we want to see the new file. We want to see this thing work. So let's run it again. And let's just wait. I'm looking to see if it, oh, good. It popped up on the right screen. Oh, and it's gone. Okay. Like, did you guys see that? Because sometimes things go pretty quick, but it's gone.
It was there
right?
for part of a second. Yeah.
You saw it for part of a second because I told it to slow down, but not for very long. Okay. Now there's other stuff I can do, and we'll get into it later, where if I put a breakpoint in here, the browser's going to stick around. I can do that. We'll do some debugging later, right?
Okay.
But it's pretty cool the way it's like headless by default, and I can run in a different mode. Okay, great. So any other questions? I'm gonna move on. Again, these are simple demos. Like, what didn't I do here, by the way? I didn't do, like, this is not a test, right?
No.
This is just showing that I can control the browser and I can navigate, right?
Right.
So if I want to write a test, this is the demo that they suggest doing for the test, right? So let's do a .NET new NUnit, because we're going to use NUnit to do our test, right? Playwright, I'll call it TDTS. Did I get an error there? What did I do? Did I say run? Huh, no. .NET new and oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I forgot dash N. All right, cool. So CD TDTS P test, okay. And I'll do my switch it over. And again, let's be clear what we did here. We created a test project, but this has nothing to do with Playwright except the name, right? Like, there's nothing Playwright in here yet. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So let's do this. So I'm going to start off doing the same steps I did before. I'm going to add the package. Just making sure I'm in the right place. I am. Okay. I do a .NET build. And I grab that install command again. Okay. Right. And again, this happens pretty quickly. So
you left the X in there.
Did I?
Yeah.
See, I told you I was going to do that. Didn't I tell you I was going to do that? And you caught it quick. You knew I was going to do it. 6.0. I said it would happen. And again, this goes pretty quickly. All right. So there we are. So let's go over, well, so here we are. We're in that file already. So let's take a look at this. So this is just an NUnit, test file. So what I'll do is I'll put, I'll put this in here. Now, this is a kind of an odd demo. This is the demo that they start with. I'm going to tell you, honestly, it seems like an odd demo. So what they say to do now is to run it. Now, to run an NUnit test, you do .NET test instead of .NET run because it's not a console app, right? And
Okay.
and I don't know why we're telling it to use 5 workers, because I don't think in this case we're actually using 5 workers, but I'm not an expert on like sort of multi, threading tests and stuff like that. But if I do that, if I do this, it says it found 1 test, but this is, I think, NUnit more than anything, right? 2 tests passed, etc. Now, the only thing I think that's interesting, because these aren't, again, like, these aren't tests that are necessarily against a web page. But what this tells me is that I've got this base class called page test, right? That's not an NUnit thing. That is a Playwright thing, right? And if I inherit from that, then I've got a page that I can work with, right?
Okay.
And I can do things like evaluate things, which is what's happening here. It's just doing some math, and it's calling an assert. But what else can I do on this page? I can, I can go forward. I can go, I can go to async. I can do stuff with the page, right? So we're going to come back and talk a little bit about that, what we can do with the page. But this is sort of the next demo they have, which I don't know. Is that underwhelming a little bit? Like it didn't. I kind of thought the next demo would jump me right into like navigating around. Now the next demo is cool. Okay, and I'm kind of going through this stuff, and I'm going to go off script for a while too. But you have a question?
No, not yet.
Oh,
Everything we're seeing, or at least the stuff we're doing now, we're kind of running a script. We do have that assert capability like you would in a unit test or something like that. I guess I'm looking. Okay. True.
Yeah.
So I guess I guess I'm looking for some kind of an output like a unit test that is going to tell me whether this has passed or failed, and maybe I could use that as some part of a workflow.
Yeah, so we'll get to see a little bit more about that.
Okay.
But when I did run that, here's the part. Did I close the command? Where did it go? What happened to when I run this? I do get a little bit of output, which we saw was very brief, right? And it tells you what tests. I don't know why that was gone from the last window. Something I must have done something. It does give you some output, right? And this is sort of a typical NUnit kind of thing in the long run. Like there's ways to make that better, right? Let's talk about that. Let's come back to that. But let's do something really cool here. Playwright comes with some, I would call it like utilities. They call it command line tools, right? So I'm going to run this script here, and wait, I am going to replace this. I'm so proud of myself right now. I'm going to change it to a 6.0. I'm really shocked that I remembered to do that. So what am I doing here? Let's just be really clear. I'm saying Playwright .ps, so I'm calling it a PowerShell script, and I'm saying code gen. I'm not really doing anything with my application. I'm just
Okay.
running a PowerShell script that happens to be in my application, right?
Okay.
Okay, so when I do that, we can probably look at it in here, but let's just run that command. And let's check this out. So this is cool. This is the code gen tool. They call it code gen. It's really test gen, right? But tests are code. So it's going to generate tests for me. So here's what I got. I got this Playwright Inspector over here. And I got this open window. And it's changing colors as I hover over it. So that's me doing that, sort of by moving my browser. So what do we got here? So it generated some code. And where we're left with is this open new page. It says new page async. And that's what we got. This is what they call a page, right? I said it's kind of like a tab. But okay, so let's go to let's go to Google. Okay, and what happened over here? Now, small. What happened over here? Oop, I didn't use my little. Oh, this thing doesn't have the. There it is. Oh, I'm making a mess. But anyway, go to Google, right? Okay, so that's what happened. So it's generating. It's following the things I do. So now if I do, I don't know. This is a lame way of doing it. I don't know how else to do it, but I can generate. Like I can get a calculator to come up, right? So okay. I typed in some stuff. Now watch this. So now I'm going to actually say 6 times 2 equals. Okay. Now let's take a look at what happened. So let's come over here. Whoa, what did I click? Sorry, I think I clicked off it. Oh, there it is. Let's bring it over here. Let's make it full screen. I don't know if I can zoom this thing. Let's see. Oh, look at that. I can. Ah, that's sweet. So let's get down to where I was, right? So the first thing that happened is it used a locator, okay? And I used my page object, and I said page.locator find, right? I mean, essentially, it's what it's doing. It's saying find this thing. Find what? Find a div with the role of button that has a text of 6.
Okay.
And that's interesting. It's not using that button might have an ID property somewhere. I don't know. I didn't look at it. We could inspect the page and find out, but it's not doing that. It's actually finding it by its text. And I don't know. I have a feeling that might be a good thing, right? Because it's what the user sees. The user's clicking on 6. The user doesn't know what you know what I mean? Like some of these tools try to like find the IDs of the things or use it off of well, it's probably going to use whatever it needs to use to find it. But anyway, it finds that thing, that button, and it clicks it, right? Click async, and then it found the multiply with the. This one was not based on the text of having an X, by the way. This one it found by the label of multiply. You notice the difference there, right?
Yeah.
And it's probably because of something that it found making the button unique or not unique, and what was the best way to identify it, is just sort of my supposing, right? Because then it went to the 2, and again, it did it very similar way. Has text of 2, nth. This is a little different. It found that maybe there was more than one button with the text of 2 on it. I guess we could go back and look.
Yeah.
Oh, not that. Let's go back to where's my? Oh, it's this thing here, right? I don't know. Maybe the 2 that's up here. It didn't want to confuse that there's a text of 2 up here. I don't know what the reason is, but it found a way to find that thing. Okay, and it clicked it, and then I clicked where the label was equals. Okay, that's what I did. Now, if I keep going with this, and I will, whoops, I really want to just do this. Sorry, let's bring that over here. Okay, and I said equals. Right now, I'm going to do something that's a little trick that I'm doing, is I'm going to click on the answer. Okay, I don't know what this pound CWOS is. Must stand for something, but I just clicked on a locator, CWOS. But that's sort of me thinking like, I want to evaluate this number 12 in my test, right? And how do I get the answer? Well, I need to be able to find it. So I wanted to know what its locator was, and it's CWOS. So this is really cool. Now let's take a quick look here a little further. And if I look at this utility, again, this is the Playwright Inspector. There is some pause functionality and some stuff because we can use this for other things. I can, there's a copy button here. But let's take a look at this. Ooh. So I can do this for Java if I wanted to. Okay. Notice that I can change it like live. Okay. Like after it's generated. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
This is Python and this is C#. So I guess it's storing it in some sort of meta language that it knows how to convert or something. I assume it does, right?
Right. Interesting.
But yes, if I want to change my mind, it's not too late, right? And
Mm-hmm.
this will clear the thing, and I don't want to do that. So now, interestingly, if I look at the demos, and where were we? We were in a demo of NUnit test. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I think, I'll be honest, I think there's some really good docs on this website, but it kind of surprises me that this is the way they're taking me through this, because now I have this NUnit test. But if I look here in my Playwright tool, if I was to copy this in, this doesn't really fit in with an NUnit test, right? This is not a test. This is like a main, right? So
Yep.
I'm going to use this anyway. Let's take this out. Let's copy this. Now, I guess I just want to close this. Let's see. Now, if I was to paste this into my NUnit test, things would be kind of screwed up, quite frankly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my other project again. I guess I should have just left it open. It shouldn't be too hard to get to there. CD TDTSP demo. I'll leave it. I'll go to that one here. And because this is a console app, right? So I can now just come into this and drop that in here. Okay. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it seems a little odd that's what I would have done, because this code isn't really sort of compatible with the previous demo. It is and it isn't.
Right.
And we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's just do this anyway. So I'm not in a unit test yet. All right. I'm not in a test, but I can execute this anyway. All right. So let's take a look at what happens if I run this. And I will tell you that I'll put a breakpoint in here. Right. And let's do let's do this. And I'm looking around on screens here. Here we go. Okay, well, we haven't done anything yet, so we're going to create Playwright, launch the browser. Headless is false. That's the way it did that for me. So remember, we're going to see this browser now. Go to new context, go to a new page, and here it is. It just popped up. And you know what? Let's do this. Let's do side by side. Okay, let's kind of get rid of this. Okay, so now I'm going to tell it to go to Google, and it's going to do that, right? It's going to go to the page, use this locator, and again, look for this. Oh, because I searched for the, right? I did this whole, I typed in 3 + 3 as a way to get the calculator, and there's probably another way to do that, but that's what I did. And now it's going to click on the 6 × 6, right? You can see all these things happening, and it changed it to 12. So I can debug that thing, and I can watch it all happen, right? Now, there's no tests in that. Ironically, there's no tests in here. But what's interesting is there are some asserts in here that they generate some asserts for you that are commented out. So you could use them if you chose to.
Right.
So really cool, by the way, recording functionality, if you ask me. Like, I think this is really slick and really easy to use. You know what I
So I'm
mean?
kind of no, I do, and I'm kind of curious. Have you used similar tools like a Selenium, which is more UI based,
Yeah,
or
it's been a long
testing
time.
the UI?
It's been a
Okay.
long time, but they have tools that will do, often called like a screen recording thing. Like it will keep track of what you do. And
Exactly.
I think this is done in a really nice way, but I don't think that's a feature that's unique to Playwright. Um,
Okay.
how it generates it might be different, sort of the techniques under the covers, but the feature of like a generator, I don't think is unique.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's right. That ability to capture my clicks essentially. There's lots of different reasons and purpose why we do that, right? We're looking at it from testing here. So there are things that are out there that do it to help you automate processes and capture the clicks of, interacting with an application. So yeah, you're right. It's nothing unique or novel to this.
Right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out some of this stuff. I'm going to ignore the top section here, right? And I'm going to take from this. Actually, I'm just going to do this from here. I'll keep the comment in there. They really put a lot of comments in there. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's bad. Personal preference. There might be a way to turn that off. I don't know. But I'm going to copy that and paste it into my other. So let's create a test here. Okay. Public void. How about this? I shouldn't name test. Let's do things the right way. First of all, let's do async void. And following best practices, you shouldn't name things test one. I'm going to call it, what was it? 2 times, what did I do? 9? I don't even know. 2 times
6.
9. It was 2 times
2 times
6.
6.
Thank you. 6. 6 should equal. Oh, well, look at that. Wait. Oh, how about that? How about that's what do you call it? GitHub
Like,
Copilot.
nice.
That was pretty cool. Now I don't know if I need this whole rest of this thing, but how cool was it that it named it finished that test naming? I'm kind of impressed by that. Let's throw this code into this that we had here. All right. And just so I don't get screwed up later, I want to close this other one. Okay. Just so I only have one instance of code going. So
Okay.
we can see some squigglies, but that's not really a big problem. I'll
Okay.
fix those easy enough. So what I'm going to do is, can I do it here? Rename, no. Rename symbol, and I'm just going to call it page. That didn't work, did it? It's okay. I'll just change them all to page. This isn't really the way you would probably do something like this, but so, or I said, because we're in this thing called, I could have done a find and replace a little quicker, huh? All right, I knew there was only a few, so what the heck. So, so now I've got this, remember, I'm in this thing called a page test. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the basic stuff is done for me, and I can just tell the page to do the thing I want to do. So what I really want to do now is let's do an actual test. And so I don't really need this line of code here, but it's going to be helpful for me because I can do an assertion, an assertion, sorry, and I can type expect. Now this is a Playwright assertion. Okay, you notice the format's a little different. I'm not saying it's a different format from unit. What's that?
It would be like an assert dot equal, right?
Assert dot, right. Oh yeah, it actually shows it right here, like assert dot or equal 12 text dot page context. That might actually work. I don't know, but I'm going to say expect, and now I can use page dot locator, and I'm going to use use my little pound CWOS, which is the locator that was there, right? So I just kind of stole it. Like that's the only reason I clicked on that thing, so I'd be able to find it. To have, and they've got some nice assert helpers in here, right? To have text async, so everything's asynchronous, and it should be 12. I got this thing over the top. Do I need another bracket? And no, one thing. What did I do? Expect page locator to have text. Oh, I probably need to do.
Wait.
Yeah. So, and then I can get rid of this line, right? I don't need that. So now I'm actually doing an assertion. So so this code is going to do a bunch of stuff to get to the page, right?
Mm-hmm.
Click a bunch of buttons and execute the test for me, right?
Yep.
So I can do .NET test. And this will, am I headless? Yeah, now I'm headless, I believe, by default. So this should just happen behind the scenes. I think. Or is it done? Can't be done. Where does the output go?
There's an output window.
Okay.
Nothing there.
List. I don't think you need to give it that other variable, which was like the runners or something like that. Let's just try this again. Oh, am I? Oh, no, hang on. I am still in the wrong. Remember I switched? There we go. Okay.
Yep. That's your unit test one.
Yeah, that's the unit test one. So it's found one file. That's just what NUnit does. And 2 passed. Now I thought I had 3 tests in here. I forgot to put a test attribute on there. Okay. I knew I had a 3rd test. So, okay, little mistake there. Let's try that again. Uh-oh.
Somebody failed.
Async test. Oh, yeah. Must have a non-void return to. Oh, yeah, task. See? That's sloppy, right? You got to have tasks. You always return a task. You never return void from an asynchronous method. That gets you into all kinds of trouble. And it's just kind of good that this thing's helping us and telling us that. So Z-Man says, and I don't know how long ago this was, seems pretty brittle. Seems pretty brittle test.
Yeah, that was, so as you were capturing the recording, that was where that comment kind of came back. And I guess there's some, I kind of agree, right? Because if you're looking for arbitrary text values inside of elements inside of your page, the numbers shouldn't change. But if it was an order form page, it could.
Yeah. So this is sort of the inherent problem with web testing in general.
Yeah.
Right. They are brittle. And that's why I said at the beginning, he's saying like looking for 6. Yeah. Yep. I threw this sort of sample together pretty quickly. And there's other things we could do. We probably should be looking at that text box, at the results text box. So I don't know. We could take a look at that again. I probably should have done it where, let's just open this up again. Hang on a second. I don't know if I would blame Playwright. That might just be my silly, example that I used here, right? So I don't know, I'm just going to go 3 plus 3 just to get this calculator up. I probably should have looked in this box, right? And if I used, DevTools, I might find that there's a better way to identify that box. Um, you know, it,
Yeah.
I didn't look for the text of 6 for the answer. I looked for that CWOS, whatever that is,
Yeah.
right?
Which
Uh,
looked like an ID because it had the number sign in front of it.
yeah. So it does say ID equals
There you go.
CWOS. Now, I don't know what that means, but that isn't really flaky. That's pretty static. I mean, like, it's not looking for I wasn't looking for the text of 6, right? I looked at this identifier
Right, but I
and
don't
found
think
this
that's
span.
I the ID. I agree that's a little more solid, but
Yeah.
some of the other test components, right? It's
Yes. Like in this case, it said, look for the text of 2, right? Now, oh, look. Oh, hang on. They all have an ID of CWOS. What does that
interesting.
mean? Um, listen, I don't know, right? Like we could build what I was thought about doing was building an application to test,
Right.
but this has got a lot of weird stuff. That's interesting. Does everything have an ID of CW? How is that possible? How would that possibly work? I'm a little confused now. Let's look
Yeah.
back at the thing. Was there something else I was missing there? Um, whoops. How did that work? Page locator pound CWOS to have text async of 12. Maybe it's like if any of them have that. So this might be a really bad test. I might have written a really poor test here. Um, I'll be honest. I don't know. I assumed when I was doing this quickly that this was the idea of the result box.
That's what I thought when I saw it.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Um, hmm. Page look. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We could write just trying to think of a better website to go to do some testing for this, and see how it behaves. What's I don't know. In the case at the beginning, this thing looked for the search box. Remember that?
Yep.
Well, it looked for the label of search and pressed enter. I think this is pretty solid. You know what I mean? It like the button is called search, right? I mean, that's what you're doing, right? That's what the label is called of this search. Like, I think in this case, it's good. The CWOS thing really now has me a little worried.
Hmm.
Um, this, I don't know if I'm bothered by this. The ARIA label is multiply, right? I'm looking for a button where the label is multiply. I'm looking for a
Right.
button where the label, where the text is 6. I mean, that seems kind of kind of right to me.
Yeah. I
But
mean, there are parts of it that seem. Yeah. I agree. There are parts of it that seem a little more solid than others. I think
yeah, yeah.
where I think that area label to me was a little iffy, but
Oh, you think? Yeah.
it's looking for some component on the screen that's just shaped that way, and I don't know. I agree with your initial premise that that this is kind of how these recording components work. I think that was where
Yeah.
you were heading with it, and I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything wrong with it. It's just that you're at the mercy of the person who owns that page to make sure your test doesn't break.
Well, that's true, right? And so that goes back to a point. I'm glad you said that because I wasn't going to bring this up. I had forgotten, but I remember from when I used to do more web testing that it was kind of asked of the developer to like behave nicely when you create this page, create something that is testable by using
Hmm.
good IDs and things like that. And then there's a lot of ways that that can improve upon this. I don't think you should necessarily take this script as is and make a test out of that. I mean, I think it's the developer's responsibility is to go through and then double check these things and say, well, does this make sense? Is this the best use case? But on a long navigational, click, 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 this is going to make things certainly easier for you, I think. But again, yeah, I started off by, that's why I think we should, you should try to do as little testing of the UI as possible. And that's not, I want to be really careful when I say that. I'm not saying to not do unit testing of or not to do testing of your UI. I'm saying to do as little testing as possible. But I also feel like you should always write as little tests as possible and write as little code as possible. It doesn't mean take shortcuts. It means don't overdo it, right? Like, figure out the most efficient way and test things. So I hope that point is clear. So anyway, there's one other thing I want to show, which is this trace viewer. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just commenting. It's all good.
A question.
Nope.
Well, there's a couple of things. There's also a way to let me show this real quick. I guess this will be easy. Sorry, I lost my notes here. So if I want to do like emulation, I can do, I don't know if all of this has to work this way, but some of the stuff you need to do from, this is a PowerShell command. I don't know if there's another version of this, but if I run the code gen and I say device equals iPhone 11 and go to Wikipedia, you know why? Because I'm not in the right.
Not in the debug bin.
Yeah, I'm not in the right path here. Why? I need to go to like the bin. Where is it? Bin. Yeah, this whole path with the .NET thing, right? Bin. Oh, you know what? I got to do. Yes. I can run that, I think. So here it comes. It's popping up the inspector tool again, but now it's giving me this little emulator of an iPhone.
Cool.
With a little browser. I think it's mostly to give you the shape of the UI. This is not an actual emulator. I said emulator. I think I said that wrong. This is not an emulator per se. This isn't like running an iPhone in the background. This is just like a browser mode kind of thing, right?
Yeah. And does it? I know you had iPhone in there. Does it does it distinguish between iPhone versus Android, or is it just iPhone essentially means mobile?
No. As a matter of fact, where is it? I think it's in. Is it under here? Emulate devices. There's a list of them. Where's the list? I'm not seeing it. Emulation down here. Probably the list down here. Didn't see the list. Why am I not seeing the list? That's odd. Well, I'll tell you what. Watch this. One thing I learned the hard way is if you do it wrong, it will correct you. So if I say something like that, I think it'll say, yeah, okay. So
there's your choices.
How do you think I found that out? Yeah, how do you think I found that out? But clearly there's quite a few options: Galaxies, iPhones, etc.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of different things you can emulate.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, so I really like let's see where it is in this trace viewer. So
Okay.
check this out. Let me just see. This should tell me, okay, to record a trace. So when I run these tests, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say context.tracing start, right? I'm going to start the trace and I'm going to do some stuff like this playwright dev, right? Whatever. I'm going to navigate to a page and then I'm going to stop the trace. So
Okay.
do that. Let me come back to this one. I think I can do it here. Now the tricky part, I got to remember because it's not. Is it context? Do I have a context on? Yeah, context dot. I'm just going to copy the rest of it. Here, let's do it this way. I'll just change this to context. Interesting. I'm missing a. I'm looking at the notes here. I don't remember using a using statement for that. Shouldn't it like tell me? Let's see. Okay, I didn't have that in there, so that was easy. I had playwright and unit. I didn't have playwright. Okay, so I'm telling it to do some tracing. I'm telling it to while you're doing the tracing, generate screenshots, generate snapshots, and sources. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the end, I'm going to go to the end of my test, and this is cool. This is really cool. Wait till you see this. I'll just capitalize that. So I'm going to save the whole trace as trace.zip. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to run this again. I don't know if that even mattered, but .NET test. Do I have a breakpoint in here? I don't think I do, right? Let's just see what happens. Wait a sec. We wait for this thing. And found one file, test passed, done. Okay.
Okay.
So now let's, too many pages in here. So if I go to the, back to the page for, oh, this is my Google thing. And let's go back over here. So many things to look at on my screen here. Okay, so now I want to view the trace. Okay, it's got that trace.zip. I'm going to run this again, but I'm going to change it to .NET 6, right? So let's go here. I think this is cool. Now I don't know if other libraries have this, but this is really cool. Hopefully this works. I mean this command. Trace does not exist. So where did I go? Playwright PS1. Right? Sorry, trace does not exist. Should be playwright trace zip. Oh yeah, trace.zip. It is there.
Yeah.
Hang on. Playwright tests, PowerShell bin debug, playwright show trace, trace file trace.zip does not exist. Am I in the wrong one? Do you have to do this from? That's weird. Because this is really cool. I just probably have something. It's probably something about the path that's just not right. So I'm in playwright tests, which is this one.
Yeah, just dir
Typed
on
in.
that and see if it's there.
Sorry, I hit this thing here. It's not here. It's up in, wasn't it? Sorry, I lost it. Where'd it go? Hang on. How did everything get all expanded? I thought I saw it a minute ago.
Yeah.
well, here it is, trace.zip. So it's in, maybe because when I ran it, I was in that weird location. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to actually
Mm-hmm.
just move this up to the root because I had my thing set up in a weird spot. Can I just like paste it like that? Yeah, let's see if that fixes it.
Okay.
Come on, baby. Hey, there it goes. Awesome. Um, okay. So this is the trace viewer. Now, what you can see up here, so up top in this bar here, are the screenshots essentially that it took, right? And it makes a film strip out of them. And as I move along here, see what's happening, right? You can see all the things I did,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then as I go through these things, I can stop on a page and I can look at the actions, right? And I can say, okay, locator, press async. I can go to that. And something's missing. It used to have this little, maybe it depends on what I do. Yeah, so even in this, so this is a good one. So in this locator click async, not only does it tell you what I clicked on, and if this is too small, maybe I could zoom this up a little bit. Yeah, oh, there you go. So this is the place we're at here. Locator.click is the actions. Now from here, I've clicked on this action. It's showing me the page. It's actually putting the red dot here is
Mm-hmm.
actually the exact spot I clicked. Like I think if I click the button over here, it would. I don't know how exact it is, but it says it shows you like exactly where you clicked. That's what they say. Now from here, I can look at the call. I can look at a bunch of stuff. I can look at the console at the time, which has nothing, right? I can look at the network and I can look at the source. So the source takes me back to my test, right? This is my
Mm-hmm.
right ahead, should add, should multiply. Those were those fake tests. These are the one I created. Shows me exactly where I was in the test. Shows me what the page looked like at the time and what was going on even in the network tab and things like that, right? So in this case, when I first went to the page, look what's going on the network page in the network tab, right? It's getting a load. It's doing everything. I can figure out exactly what's going on here. Like this is a lot of information, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, and there's probably more that I haven't even figured out yet of like what's in here. A little bit of metadata, start time, duration, um, the browser, Chromium, et cetera, et cetera. 11 actions. This is the whole thing. This is the actions. These are all the different steps I took. Oh, there's this too. Okay. So there's this action. I'm looking at the action, but I can also look at the before and I can look at the after. Um, so if I look at this beforehand, I have a 6. Well, let's see, which one was this? Let's go back to, I'm trying to think of where well, this is where I said 3 plus 3 equals 6. And then I did 6 times. So let's do the after. So times 2. Before I clicked this, this is me hitting the 2 button,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where the page has 2, or the text is 2. So before it, this is what the page looked like. After it, it showed me the 2. I think this is like a heck of a lot of detail that should be helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
to
especially if you're doing
you know,
something. Yeah, especially if you're doing something more complex than a calculation, right? There's a lot of data that might be happening as forms or entry in one field populates information in another field. All the validation that might happen on the page. It's
yes.
there's a lot to walk through here for sure.
And certainly, so I don't know what the best practice is here. I turned on this trace viewer, and maybe this isn't something you use all the time because it's going to generate this file. It might slow things down, but certainly if you're troubleshooting,
Hmm.
this has got to be like a great thing. I don't know if you leave this on when you run your tests, like when you've got thousands of tests, maybe you don't have trace going. I'm not familiar with what the best practice is there, but I could imagine a scenario where they're saying, well, maybe you shouldn't do this, all the time.
Right. I'm
But
I part of the at least when it was a while ago, but there are some validated systems that we did, and you would say, well, your this is the step, this is what's expected, and then the third column was, well, what do we actually get? And what
yeah,
what this kind of gives you is, instead of copying and pasting screenshots um, into text boxes table boxes on a Word document, this gives you your
yes,
documentation.
exactly. That's right. The one thing I can't find on here, it just feels like it should be here, but maybe it shouldn't, is like a play button. Like I feel like I should be able to hit play and have it go like do 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 do, and have it like
Yeah.
move along. But I haven't found that yet, and maybe that's just silly. Like maybe there's just no need for that because I can scroll along and whatever. Um, so I think that's going to be a really big feature. So I just want to see if I missed anything. You can see the actions, you can see the screenshots, you can sort of act like they're like snapshots. Oh, that's the before, action, and after. I didn't realize that's called a snapshot. So remember, I turned on a few features in here. I said I wanted screenshots, snapshots, and sources. Okay, so the screenshots are the pictures. The snapshot
Hmm.
is that before after, and the
Yeah.
sources, I assume, is where it shows the code. Go back to that over here. This is the source. It's capturing the source. I assume that's what that is. Let's see what it says. Doesn't even say. I don't think so. Um, they also have a remote viewer for this thing, so you could do it on like this trace.playwright.dev. Um, I think that if you store your traces somewhere else, for instance, let's try this. Will that work? I don't know. Real thing. That didn't do anything. Why? Maybe I'm supposed to go to the site.
Did you get the whole URL?
I might not have. Are you accusing me of being sloppy? Because I might be.
No, just
Um,
incomplete.
yeah, I'm missing the H. No, but I thought I clicked this. Now, see, now it did. Yeah, I think what happened is I had something selected, and it gave me
Yeah.
a different experience. This thing, right? So yeah, okay, cool. So I just want to do this. Let's try it here. Yeah, this is somebody else's demo, right?
Yep. So
So
you
this
could
is like
so
an
you could share it
online.
out.
You could share it out, right? There's definitely ways you could do this with someone who does not have Playwright installed, who doesn't have this tool, right? Because I ran it from the command line. I started it. And
Hmm.
I think this would be pretty helpful probably when you're doing a lot of these things. Um, another cool tool that this thing has in here. Let me check my notes. Any questions that you guys might have? The chat's been kind of quiet. I hope this is like helpful. That there's some cool stuff here. It's possible that some of you guys don't do testing at all in the first place, or at least not this kind of testing. I don't know. Um,
I will say the one
let's
thing
get
that I
into
thought was interesting in looking through
yeah.
the document a bit is, under guides, there are integrations, and there's
Guides.
actually,
Okay.
yeah, down the bottom,
Oh, integrations here. Yes. Yeah.
and
So
then
you
there's
can
a
integrate this. That's a good thing we should talk about, right? You want this to
yep,
happen in your pipeline.
yes,
And so on the generic continuous integration thing here, this is one of the first things I checked for is that I can go into, if I have an Azure pipeline, it actually says for Windows and Mac agents, no additional configuration required. Just install Playwright and run your tests. So I think what you would need to still do is, like, they don't say it here, but you still need to is install Playwright and run your tests, and you would need to do that. It just doesn't. They don't show it here, right?
It's interesting they don't. I mean, in the action they did, but not in the
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I
in
don't
the
know why.
pipeline.
So this is an example where some of the docs seem to be lacking, but maybe it's just something maybe I'm missing it. I don't want to blame anybody, But certainly you have integration into here.
Yeah, and
So there's a
actually,
couple of, yeah. No, go ahead.
yeah, actually, they're saying you're running as a containerized job, and I think that so you use that
Well, so
Playwright
no, for
container.
Linux agents. Oh, well, yeah, right. Most of the time you don't use Windows, right? You would probably use a Linux agent, and you can
Yep.
use our Docker container. Okay, good, with Azure Pipeline support. Um, and I don't know, those steps are blank, so I think you still need to. I
Still
still
need
don't think this
to
is completely giving me everything I need, right?
Yeah, I agree a little bit. Loka has a question, or I guess a statement in
No,
the
look,
chat
it's got a
around.
question.
Um,
Like the trace feature, right now my tests only create a screenshot if the test fails. The step by step could help me, yeah, easier to debug those flaky tests. Yeah. So Loka, might assume that you're already using Playwright, or are you just playing along right now? I guess I'm wondering what you mean by your tests only create screenshots if the test fails. But I would think that's a cool way to do it, to save. You don't want to have like all these screenshots sitting around for a bunch of successful tests, unless maybe you have an audit policy that wants to see those kind of things, and then you
yeah,
could use that for more documentation. Oh, currently using Selenium, right? Um, and I think that they have some of these features again are across all these things. Um, but yeah. Um, so what I wanted to say was, one of the first things I noticed in here is they talk about NUnit, and I'll be honest, I'm a fan of XUnit.
mhm.
Uh, but if you go to test runners, they talk about that a bit down here. So let's see, they give you a bit of the base classes for XUnit support right here. So while using NUnit is also supported, we do not support running parallel tests. This is a well-known problem, design limitation outlined by the maintainers across several issues. So you could use XUnit, but then you're going to lose support for parallel tests. And I imagine that would be something that would be good to have, parallel tests. So, um, so XUnit is supported, but probably not the go-to. I guess we're better off with NUnit for this. I also wanted to point out that um, looking at this messy file here, this is a test. This is, in this case, an NUnit tests. Okay, that means there's a lot of things I can do in here. Like I'm using this expect. This is an assertion that comes with Playwright test expect. But I'm a fan of fluent assertions. If I want to use the
Mhm.
fluent assertions library, this is just a test. I can install fluent assertions. This is just a test. If I want to do some other line, write code another way, if I want to use something like, oh God, I always blank out on the name of this thing. Like Gherkin style tests. What's it called? Like BDD style tests. Um, you can do that in here too. That's just how you design your tests, right? You can compose these things of pieces if you want to do this. You might
Mhm.
have, you might have 10 tests in here, but they all start with going to Google, right? And doing, the beginning part. You can componentize these things if you want. Um, Remember, we're down to, at that point, we're talking about C#. We're talking about, writing tests. So, you can use all those other practices that you like. And I'm really glad you pointed out that, of course, you can tie this stuff into your pipelines, um, as well.
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah,
yeah.
that I like, because anything that gives feedback and lets you automate those components and give you the feedback and kill the build or kill the deployment if it
Yeah.
fails. Those are That's a great feature to have.
There's something else in here that is actually, because you're talking about the output. What's it called? Reporters. Okay, so there's a thing called reporters. Now this is
Mhm.
really weird because you don't see it here under guides. At least I don't see it. But I know that if I go to like Node, you see reporters, right? There's different. So I'm not sure how you get to these reporters um, here, but the built-in reporters. Let's see. Wait, there's a list of them somewhere. Dot reporter, HTML reporter. So you can say the HTML reporter produces a self-contained folder that contains a report for the test run that can be served as a web page, which again, I think is something that a lot of these libraries have,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure how you set the reporter. Well, maybe you just do, well, can we try something here? I'm just going to guess and
Yeah.
say maybe I add that as a command when I do, let's see, playwright test. If I was to do .NET test, does that work? Because is that kind of what they were doing in the, that might not be the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
NPX playwright test, right? So maybe, no. What if I
Nice try.
do, is it like something like that or .help or something? What should I be able to do there? Oof, that's hard to read. Hang on. I want to do, make that a little easier to read. Oh, this is a long list of things.
Mm.
So the problem is, I think that .NET Test is an NUnit thing, and I'm trying to use a feature of
Excellent.
Playwright.
Playwright.
Well, it's Playwright. I mean, I shouldn't say it's an NUnit thing, but that's a .NET command that says test, which is execute whatever test runner. So I'd like to figure out how to do that. Playwright. What do I want to do? What are they called? Uh, reporters. Yeah, see, I tried looking for this and couldn't find it beforehand. See, maybe they're not even available because this person's asking a question like, when do they become available? 2 days ago.
They
So
asked the
maybe that's why
question.
it's not in the, yeah, maybe it's not even there. Maybe you just can't use them, which is kind of a bummer because it's supposed to be like for .NET anyway. I don't know. um, Playwright for .NET. I don't know. There's other features, I guess, is what I'm getting at. There supposedly are those things. There's good docs about network stuff, navigation, input. There's a lot more, that you could read about. You mentioned the integrations. What else was in there? There's something else. Oh, the Selenium grid, which I think is a way to view like test results or something like that. I don't know. You can also generate videos. I talked about screenshots. I can record a video if I want.
That gets you your play.
Oh, that gets your play button. Yeah, I don't know if it'll be synced up with that other thing. Oh, maybe in here. I don't know. I'm really just grasping at straws here, but I wonder if you can come up here and say, I don't want that thing to come up. Is there like a video?
Yeah.
I don't think there
Looks like
is.
there's a record video. Maybe that one.
Lowercase. Um, I don't know. Maybe not. But, I'm sure there's more stuff in here that I haven't figured out yet. So, yeah, so that's sort of my quick overview of Playwright. I think it's cool. I'm excited to use it. I love and this, I don't want to put Loka on the spot, but this would be a question for Loka or anyone else who's currently using Selenium who maybe doesn't have that auto weight feature that this offers. Does that clean? I mean, there's so many comments in here, so it's kind of hard to make this look clean, right? But essentially, this doesn't have to be all that complicated for all the steps I have, right?
Right.
I probably screwed something up there. Oh, I know what I did. Hang on. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. Somebody should tell me I'm hitting Control X instead of Control Z. My point is like this isn't that complicated, and how messy would this be if we did this with Selenium, right? And maybe there's a show there to compare the two and see how that looks. But if anybody on the show is using Selenium and has any thoughts about how nice the auto weight feature is, I'd like to hear your thoughts. And no, go ahead.
No, I mean, looking at this, I'm interested in trying it out and see how it works. See what getting it integrated into a pipeline and showing how that all flows through there. I think that would be a pretty cool demo.
Yeah,
and it sounds like you're interested in. Sounds like you're interested in using it for some of the things you're doing in your work.
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah, we're going to be using it for a lot of stuff.
Nice.
And there's other people that are looking into this too. Not just me. I'm doing it sort of as a sideline to understand it. But yeah, pretty soon we'll be doing UI tests and have them all run through the pipelines and be having all kinds of fun with that, and hopefully generating some really cool reports if we can figure out how to get the reporting options going. I'll be a little disappointed if you can't. I mean, another option would be, oh, you know what? Let me just check one thing here. Yeah, see, since this is available, we could conceivably well, I was thinking about like doing it with just plain old JavaScript, right? But I don't know if that's what we want to do. Yeah, I don't know. What I was thinking, but I'm trying to think if there's a way to take a look. Loka says, I've had tests fail because of timing issues across different browser and also across different machines. For example, if one machine is faster than another, the test may fail. Right. I assume, Loka, that's because you're putting weights in and the time is different from one machine to another, or does it like automatically wait for a short period of time on its own? I don't remember because I haven't used Selenium in a really long time. But it would seem that this would solve that problem. It would seem that way. It's supposed to, right?
What they say.
It's what they say. That's what they say. Yeah. Do we have a plan for next week?
I think we do actually, and it's a plan we had a couple weeks ago, but unfortunately, yeah, you can go to Meetup if you want. It is while that's coming up. It's a plan we had a couple weeks ago, only we didn't tell everybody about the plan. So,
thought we did actually. We talked about Bicep, didn't we?
We planned to do a show on Bicep, but we didn't let everybody know that we needed a show on Bicep. So we tried to do this beginning of April, and I kind of goofed on the scheduling for that one. But everybody's in sync, everybody's aligned, and we all agree that we're doing a show next week on Bicep. We're bringing back Brian Minisey, who's going to come and talk about Bicep. And
Brad likes Brian Minisey.
Yes, they're going a little wild here. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We should have all four of us here. That'll make it even that much better. So there's definitely some good content coming up for next week.
Yeah, that'll be cool. That's a good show. That's a good topic. He's a good guest. Hopefully people come back and check out that show, and check out our archives on YouTube. Also, if you have some time and you're looking for some content, we have all our content on YouTube, all the old shows. And now I'm seeing the text from Loka too, just to follow up. Loka said, I had to add explicit weights until another element is displayed, for example, in order for the test to succeed. Right. So I'm not knocking on that or what Loka's doing, but that does seem like it would just make things more complicated in the testing. And I would hope that auto weight feature is a pretty big deal. So anyway, yeah, just wanted to kind of circle back on that. That's supposed to be one of the big draws of this particular framework, is the auto weight.
Yep.
Yeah. What other shows do we have? Do we have any other ideas coming up or any other things scheduled? Not according to Meetup.
Meetup does not,
I'm
but
gonna click
we're
10. Look, see this? This is what I want everyone to do. Go to this Working with Bicep and click attend. Look at that. There we go. Working with Bicep, attend. I don't know why I didn't do that. Oh, look at us. Everybody knows my name. I'm logged in. Why is it asking me my name? Aren't I logged in? I don't know. Whoops, what happened? It didn't submit. Andy. All right, I'm going.
No, Andy should write a Playwright test about this.
Yeah, that's a good idea. This would have been a website we could test. Sure, why not? Anyway.
Yeah. So there are different ideas that we're certainly kicking around when it comes to I've seen some different things, Windows Terminal. We've talked about some of the add-ins for Windows Terminal. WinGet, that's always a thing. Still want to do a WinGet one. So we've got a lot of things in the list. It's just we haven't put dates to those various topics. And if there are things that you hear are interested in having us talk about, drop us a note in the chat here, or if you're watching this in the future, as Chris likes to say, then go ahead and drop us a note on our Twitter. You can get us at the Dev Talk Show. In order to find all those other videos, go ahead and check out our YouTube, as Andy mentioned, where all the replays are. And regardless of how you found us tonight or where you're watching us in the future, come back every Wednesday at 8:30 and check us out here on Twitch and YouTube, Twitter. Provo?
Twitter. Yeah, I always forget to remind that we're on Twitter now. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, so you can pretty much, you can catch us from all kinds of different platforms, no matter where you are. And just love to see you join us and be part of the chat and part of the conversation. So with that, for Chris, who has the night off, well deserved, for Andy, and the great job he did, Andy, showing his Playwright and walking us through that. I'm Rich, and we will see you next week on the Dev Talk Show.